Hey, how's it going, everybody? Today we're gonna find out just how strong the U.S. military really is. I've always wondered how big its military is compared to all the other countries in the world, all the other superpowers. I mean, I'm originally from Germany, and Germany, I guess, used to be really strong, but now it's compared to many other countries, not that strong anymore. Um, and But the U.S. is obviously a powerhouse. And Anyway, I'm curious to find out just how strong it is. I mean, we all know that it spends billions, billions, and billions on defense, and so let's see where all that money goes. Let's do it.
Why is the US military the strongest? Great military powers have been appearing and disappearing since the beginning of history. Now is the time for the United States of America to be the leader in military might. But what makes it so powerful? Will its power remain undisputed? Are there already signs of weakness? Would it really stand in a conflict with potential rivals like China or Russia? To find out, we should analyse why exactly the US military is considered the strongest. The numbers.
No, you could tell it's the strongest just by how many flags there are in this country, which I think is a great thing, by the way. I love seeing the flags.
Is considered the strongest.
Let's do it.
The numbers.
All right. Let's get down to
the
math.
The US has 1,400,000 active military personnel. This figure places it in third place in this category.
1.4
China
million.
has the largest army with slightly above 2 million soldiers, while India comes in second place. This doesn't sound that impressive, but what makes the US military stand out is not necessarily the raw number of men.
No, and you also got to keep. By the way, you also got to keep in mind that the population of the U.S. I mean, the U.S. is huge, obviously, compared to many other countries, but it's tiny compared to countries like India or China. I mean, China has I don't know which one is bigger. I think China has more people there right now, but doesn't China and India have 1.3 billion each, while the U.S. has? I mean, it's hard to say how many people live in the U.S., but I always go with the number was just 350 million, I think.
The US has unquestionable air supremacy.
So 1.4 million is pretty big.
The US military is number one in air power, with 13,264 total military aircraft.
Damn.
A total that is greater than the other 5 greatest air forces combined.
Say it again?
Total that is greater than the other 5 greatest air forces combined.
Wow. Holy shit.
2,085 are air-to-air fighters, 715 ground attack aircraft, 945 transportation aircraft,
nice.
5,768 helicopters, and 967 attack helicopters.
Wow.
The US is number one in each aircraft category, except for air-to-ground forces, where it's slightly topped by Russia. The US has a powerful navy that is designed to work in conjunction with its air forces. It has 20 aircraft carriers, 11 are regular fixed-wing carriers, while 9 are capable of hosting
Isn't it
only
crazy?
helicopters and short takeoff planes, carriers.
Isn't it crazy to see all these huge, massive ships? And I honestly, when I was younger, when I was a kid, and I saw those ships for the first time, and you can see just how many planes or whatever you want to call them, planes, I guess. They're so close to the edge. I'd be worried, hey, if this thing hits anything. I don't even know how many tons this thing weighs, but what if it just falls off? I mean, they got to secure it somehow, right? But it's you can't tell me that that's never happened.
While 9 are capable of hosting only helicopters and short takeoff planes like the F-35B. This is almost half of the world's total number of aircraft carriers, while most of the others belong to allied countries. If we take into account only regular fixed-wing aircraft capacity, the total combined deck space of the US aircraft carriers is over twice that of all the other nations combined. To complement this, the US Navy has the greatest number of destroyers and ranks third in the number of submarines.
Wow, Japan has a lot.
The numbers of the US naval strength are a bit tricky. If we count the total number of naval assets, the US falls in 4th place, behind Russia and China, and even behind North Korea, that boasts a surprising 1st place. However, in case of a maritime conflict, it would still be hard to counter the power of the US Navy, supported by overwhelming air supremacy and allied forces. Land power. The US is slightly behind Russia regarding raw numbers. American ground forces number 6,289 tanks, 39,000 armoured vehicles, 1,465 self-propelled artillery, and 1,366 rocket projectors. However, Russia has a lot of outdated vehicles with questionable performance in case of a real conflict. Meanwhile, the US military has a broad technological edge.
I bet.
The US has 5,800 nuclear warheads that make it the world's second largest in nuclear war power. In this video, we're analysing the conventional military strength, but it can't be denied that a nuclear arsenal does bring a certain status.
Oh, it does. It does. It does for sure. Especially nowadays. I mean, nuclear is about as strong as it gets.
To a full-blown nuclear war, it's intimidating to any country to be armoured with such nuclear power. The quality. The US Army consists entirely of trained professionals, and many have real combat experience. Since the beginning of this century, the US has been involved in military conflicts in Afghanistan, Iraq, Pakistan, Somalia, Libya, Uganda and Yemen.
Yeah, pretty much everywhere.
While other countries still rely on conscripts to fill the numbers, the US can field an army of well-trained, experienced professionals. The equipment, the military assets and the technology used in combat have excellent quality.
Well, here's something that I don't know if you guys realize this. So for the people that are watching this, that are from the US, and let me go back here. The US, so I guess first of all, it's not mandatory to join the military in the U.S. Unless there's obviously war breaking out, you know, like a global thing, obviously. But I've heard from some people that were in the military just the benefits that they got from it. I mean, obviously, don't get me wrong, being in the military is not an easy job. I'm sure there's some way easier jobs, and you know, there's some easier jobs, and then there's some really, really tough, hard, you know. Some jobs that will, you know, they're difficult, very difficult, not just mentally, but obviously physically. But the U.S., like from what I heard, they offer for the time that you spend compared to other countries so much more in terms of benefits. I mean, I know that here, for example, you get all these benefits from like the school benefits, like the tuition assistance and all that stuff. I guess there's like a VA loan or something I've heard of. And you always get, you know, pay is, you know, whatever, you get a soldier's pay, you know, it's obviously you're not going to get rich by it, but, and you get a whole bunch of discounts from certain places, and you get access to like exchange place. It's not exchange place, but like some stores or whatever, and many, many things more. Way more stuff than you would, and maybe I think there's also like sign-on bonuses and stuff like that. Way more stuff than you would get if you lived in a different country, like Germany, for example. I mean, I don't know too many people in Germany that have joined the military, but most of them didn't really, like once they were out of the military, there wasn't really anything that they got, you know. And I think up until 2011 was mandatory to serve about a year in the German military. Either that or do like a social year, I think, which, you know, you could be like a social worker, you know, but it had to be like authorized by the government. But once they were out, you know, they no longer get any pay or anything or any benefits. Like, never heard of that at all. And I think that's how it is in most countries, honestly. I think, especially once you're out, you don't really get anything.
To fill the numbers, the US can field an army of well-trained, experienced professionals. The equipment, the military assets and the technology used in combat have excellent quality. This is the defining reason why US casualties are usually fewer than those of their adversaries. The strong ability to project power is another defining trait of the United States military. Size, technology and experience are nothing if you can't reach the enemy. Power projection is the ability of a state to deploy and sustain forces outside its territory. Only a few states are capable to overcome the difficulties that involve power projection, and the US excels at it.
Oh, it
This
sure
is made
does.
possible
It
by
sure
several
does.
factors. The home base of the US is safe. The neighbouring countries are friendly. Potential enemies are far away. The large landmass makes it a country that is hard to invade. It also
How
has
much?
coastline
9.82. So 9,826,675 square kilometers.
along two oceans and
You can tell this was not, this video was not made by an American. I don't think many Americans will understand what square kilometers is miles.
strategic islands that hold military bases. The US forces can reach
Look at
far,
that.
fast, and deploy great numbers of forces supported by the enforcement of air and sea superiority, combined with excellent transportation capabilities. Even if it doesn't engage in combat, the US can enforce naval and air blockades that can severely cripple an enemy's economy. The US has by far the largest network of military bases operating outside of its territory. Information regarding the exact number and location of such bases involves classified information.
That looks like a
Regarding
pain in
the
the
exact
ass. That looks like a pain in the ass to set up. That looks like a pain in the ass to set up.
number and location of such bases involves classified information, so we can only estimate the total extent of the overseas military presence. Back in 2013, the Pentagon stated that there were around 600 military bases overseas.
Wow.
A rough estimate would be around 1,000 overseas US military compounds. Approximately 165,000 military personnel is stationed outside the United States. This doesn't include areas of conflict such as Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan. The US has significant forces deployed in around 55 countries and autonomous territories. It is also estimated that more than 150 countries have a certain degree of US military presence.
150 countries. Aren't there only about 200 countries in the whole world? So 150 of them, that's 75%.
The United States can rely on a vast network of alliances. It is the de facto leader of NATO, the world's strongest military alliance. 18 other countries are designated as major non-NATO allies. This list includes countries like Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, Philippines, Thailand, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Egypt, Israel, Argentina, and Brazil.
Huh.
Taiwan's status is a bit more complicated and
Brazil,
it can be
really?
considered a de facto ally. Some countries are not formal allies but have a strong strategic partnership with the US. One notable example is India, that participates in regular military drills together with US forces and some of its allies. Economy. Modern warfare is
Now we're
sustained
getting
in
to
the
the
long
money
term
part
by
of
two
things.
main factors: the capacity to produce military equipment and the capacity to spend money on defence. American defence companies are the indisputable top producers of weaponry. Among the world's top 10 defence suppliers, 5 of them are American companies. Lockheed Martin is the biggest. It reported a revenue of almost $60 billion in 2019.
Wow.
That's close to Russia's entire annual military spending.
That's crazy.
The strength of the US military is also due to its huge
Ooh,
military
look at that
budget.
one.
In 2019,
Gee,
spending on the
that
US
thing-
military is also due
Look at that. Look at the boat next to it. That thing is tiny with the boat. Look at that. Wow. Wow. That's crazy. Crazy big. Oh, and look at all those sailors there. Are those people? I think those are people, right?
due to its huge military budget. In 2019, spending on the US military was a whopping $732 billion. That's almost 3 times more than China, the world's second largest military spender, and is roughly 1/3 of the entire.
Wait, was
China,
Germany on there? Germany 49.
the world's second largest military spender, and is roughly 1/3 of the entire world's defence budget.
Damn.
While Russia is commonly regarded as the second most powerful army in the world, its budget consists of only $65 billion. Arguably, there is an aspect of purchasing power. For example, it's cheaper to pay a Russian or Chinese soldier, but
Yeah.
the cost of high-quality military equipment is still the same around the world. The reason that the US can afford such an enormous military budget is that it's supported by a strong economy. America has been the world's largest economy since 1871.
Benjamins.
Its nominal GDP is currently $21.44 trillion. This is almost a quarter of the global economy. And it's backed with plenty of natural resources, advanced infrastructure,
Oh wait,
and
what did it say
global
again?
economy.
21.44 trillion. Huh.
And it's backed with plenty of natural resources, advanced infrastructure, and technology. Besides the ability to sustain an enormous defence budget, the US often uses its economic strength as a weapon by enforcing economic sanctions. Soft factors.
Oy, oy, oy.
Soft power is another factor that comes into play when assessing a country's might. The US is world-beating in culture, education, and technology. American pop culture has an enormous influence, and this won't change anytime soon. America also hosts most of the world's top-ranking universities with a record number of international students. The US leads the world of technology and digitalization as home to the world's most influential tech companies like Apple, Google, Microsoft, and Facebook. It's easy to think that this doesn't seem important in warfare, but imagine an enemy soldier that would have to attack the country where his cousin studies, the country of his favourite music band, the country of his favourite actors from the movie that he watches on an American media platform like YouTube,
I guess that's one way to put it.
Or an American smartphone with American software. Finally, there is another critical aspect. It is called the will to fight, and this is the single most important factor in war. The will to fight is the disposition to engage in combat, the determination to keep fighting even when facing precarious odds, and finally to win. At an individual level, a soldier with a low will to fight will avoid engagement with the enemy and is likely to flee when things get tough. A battle is won when the enemy's will to fight is broken. Wars don't end when one military destroys the other. Wars end when one side grows weary of fighting, doesn't see any further purpose in the continuation of the conflict, and gives up.
Damn, look at that.
The national will to fight is what keeps a nation fighting. This is commonly linked to a sense of patriotism, national identity, and motivation
Don't you guys just love seeing the American flags? I love the flag. To me, it's a very beautiful flag.
Generated by the idea that one fights for what is right. In the past, this has been a strong point of the US, as Americans have been fighting against dictators and terrorists that lacked concern for human life and dignity. In contrast, the USA has been regarded as a country that embodies values of freedom, democracy, and rule of law. It was the country that defined such values. Even more, it was the country that was willing to fight for these values. The American soldier has been motivated by a sense of moral supremacy rooted in the country's Christian tradition. However, America doesn't seem to be so cohesive in its values anymore. There are many factors intertwined that provoke this. It's a complex topic that deserves a study on its own. But the outcome is that America is now a country that is greatly divided among ideological lines and systems of belief. Many of its citizens are not sure what to believe in anymore, or even what they stand for. There have been many lessons in history. Small nations became great empires by holding high moral standards along with a disciplined and motivated army. A great empire's fall was usually preceded by internal strife and moral crisis. The final story of the United States of America as a global power is not yet written. The nation's strength rests upon its citizens and their decisions. It's a matter of this great nation getting back its cohesion and moral compass. That is, if it wants to keep its status as the world's greatest superpower and defender of freedom.
Damn, that was a good video. That was a good video. Hey, let's end the video on a beautiful shot. Wow, that's incredible, don't you think? That is absolutely incredible. What was it? 760? No, what? 732 billion? Was that the number on defense? Man, you don't want to mess around with the US. You really don't. Doesn't matter which country you are. Damn, that's insane. Well, hey guys, let me know what your thoughts are. I thought this was a great video, honestly. Well presented. Reminds me, dude. This reminds me of the of this video that I recorded like a couple years ago. That's I think it was called like top 10 reasons why you shouldn't mess with the US or something like that. or U.S. military. And that video was great too. Um, isn't it crazy to think just how powerful the U.S. is, even though it is only. I mean, you can argue how old it is, but if you take the Declaration of Independence, right? Let's go with roughly 250 years, 250 to 300 years, whatever. And yet it's so powerful. But meanwhile, I mean, don't get me wrong, like China and Russia and all those places, they were also divided for a long time, and then it took a while to form like modern China, modern Russia, modern Germany, modern Japan, and things like that. But it's insane, dude, just how it's a powerhouse. It's a true powerhouse. That's all I can say. Anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know. Don't forget to leave a like if you like the video, obviously. Comment, and yeah, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do that. I'd very much appreciate it. And I'll see you guys soon. Have a good one.